Hi everyone. I don't know where I'm going, but I sure know what I've been. Hanging on the promises of businesses from yesterday, but I've made up my mind. I know it's funny, I just earwormed you, and I know this weekend you're probably going to be banging your head to here I go again on my own. Anyways, um, I have to give you a little bit of a background, and I can give you the 2 minute pitch, but that's kind of difficult this time, and I'll tell you why. Um, my 2 minute pitch should be something like I am building a Hawaiian or Pacific Island style restaurant that is going to offer great food, it's going to offer quality food that is healthy, uh, great customer service. There's no other Hawaiian restaurant or real Hawaiian restaurant in this area. This is Brooklyn, New York. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of restaurants out there, a lot of competition, but when done right, it could be a very successful business, a very rewarding business, a very profitable business. The customers are out there. The economy is building. At least in this area, there's a lot of growth. The problem with all that is that I really don't know. I I did my first week video, and then I studied a little bit more, and things make less sense in one way, an amazing sense in a different way, and I'm glad I ended up taking this class. Okay, I have to give you some background about me. I owned a business for 10 and a half years. I was in the Air Force for 11 years, got out to own my business. I'm going to be more specific, so that way I'm just open with you, and hopefully you can learn something from my mistakes and my experiences. I owned the Crestview Fred Astaire franchise dance studio. The great thing about owning a business, and something I've realized, I didn't even dance. I mean, I danced socially before owning a franchise dance studio. I learned the craft, I learned how to work the system, work the business, and I had a lot of management experience from the Air Force. So anyone can learn how to do anything, any business. My thing was that I opened a ballroom dance studio in Crestview, Florida, a highly conservative area. And I wasn't ready to face that market. My only research about the market was that there was a studio there prior to us that had closed, and I was given the concept, or I was told that it closed because the owners wanted to raise a family, and having a business just wasn't going to be possible for them to do both. So they decided to close the business and move on. Well, the truth was very different than that. And so when I opened my studio, there wasn't a market. Number one, there wasn't a market for it. And the people that were going to the studio before were scarred by the fact that the studio closed while they were there. So I had to do a lot of cleanup. I had to do a lot of things to make my studio work. But I made it work. I spent 10 and a half years, and last year I sold it successfully. I made a profit out of it, but I had to work extremely hard. I had to work extremely hard to create a culture in the town where people wanted to ballroom dance. So there wasn't a market. I started the business. This was in 2007, in end of 2007, December 7th, 2007. And mid 2008, the economy crashed. So we survived that by just working hard. It was grueling. I mean, it was a lot of hard work. And eventually we had to create a market. It wasn't even that people wanted to dance. We went out and we showcased, we did everything we could to show people that we had something great to offer. And then the word spread, the reputation got really big, and finally we're able to become successful enough to purchased my own building, and then on top of that, I decided to open Elegant View Event Center in Crestview. In addition, because the building had the it was big enough, the facilities were beautiful, so we figured we run two businesses out of it, and that became very successful. And when I felt the success, I decided to sell, to sell when it was doing good. I tell you all this because it would have been a lot easier to start a business uh, understanding my market. I could tell you, if done right, I would have not started a business there. If I did my research, if I went out and asked people, if I went out and figured out what people wanted, I can tell you that before my studio was there, people did not want to dance. I had to force my business. I had to force my product onto people, and we did it in an amazing way. Like I said, we became part of the Chamber of Commerce. I was a chamber board member for 3 years, and everyone that sat on that board, I would say, you know 13 out of 15 people on that board that sat on that table were actually my customers, or at least came to my studio and tried us out. They knew about us. So we did a great job of doing that. But can you imagine if the market was there and it wasn't? And now, when I think, oh, great, I come to New York, and it seems to be, seems like a little Hawaiian restaurant would be a great idea to do here. Then you start learning to do it backwards, to actually not think about your product and think about finding the problem, finding the market, and then realizing it, figuring out if people want it. And that's the part of realizing that I've done it wrong this whole time, but understanding that the potential now is huge. The potential of knowing that I've done a couple of businesses that I can do it, and now I can do it to a specific market, to a specific set of people, as opposed to trying to force a product uh, onto them. I sometimes find myself walking the dogs and going through, oh, this would be neat, to have in the restaurant. This would be great, and I find myself doing product development, and then I had to stop myself from doing that, and then realize that I should have a concept, I should have an idea, but I shouldn't develop it to the point where all the details are put together until I know that the market is there. And this has been amazingly eye-opening. I really, whether I become a business owner again, I don't know, uh, but if I do so, I can tell you that it'll be very different than I did before. All the sweat and tears and blood in my business, because you get to bleed sometimes. Um, the I could have saved 90% of that. I mean, it's crazy to me that I could have just not done a business, or done a different business, understanding that people were looking for something different. Um, but yeah, I would have done it differently. So my 2 minute pitch is not there yet. I know that we're supposed to, we're told to, think on the fly and figure out if changes need to be made. Excuse me, to our plan while we're doing the pitch, but mine is just completely different than what I expected before. So I am gonna still develop a little bit of the product, because of course I need to get some ideas of what I'm gonna do when it comes to the restaurant. I'm leaning certain ways and not others, and I've acquired some resources when it comes to mentorship, and I'll be doing a lot more market research. So soon you should see a PowerPoint, and yeah, see you in a minute. I am going to try to make this short and quick. This is for a business idea. I'm still scratching my head on what this is going to be. The initial idea, which is the value proposition, it was a Hawaiian grill, fast, fresh foods, somewhat healthy, order at the counter, limited choices, strong customer relations.
The location originally Manhattan, but I'm living towards Brooklyn, New York, in the Williamsburg area. The thing is that as I'm doing the research, things are changing. So what I think right now doesn't even matter. I don't know if there's a need in the market, if it's saturated, if I can afford the expenses, and I need to stop developing the product because I have a good idea. Just to have to figure out if it'll work, and if it doesn't, then move on from there. This is my original business model canvas. Just a few changes have been made. I'm targeting locals within walking distance, and I did a survey, which we'll probably see also posted, so you get an idea of what I'm doing. Tourists are a lot more difficult to survey because it changes every year, but there are government stats that I can use, and I have to research those. The single location full service restaurant is a $179 billion industry. In this area, the median income is 56,000. If you take a look at 45,000 to 150,000 per year range, that's my biggest market, and that's what I'm trying to target. I want you to take a look at the ages here, the from 25 to 34 and 35 to 44 uh, is the biggest market. It's a very young area. The channels, the food truck, I am starting not to think that that's not a good idea, and I'll explain next week after I do some more research. Storefront would be the way to go, and of course delivery. Um, Customer relationships still the same from last time. The revenue stream, direct sales still the same. Third-party delivery is still a way of direct sales to the customer, so that really hasn't changed. On key partners, I've acquired a mentor, someone that owns a Hawaiian restaurant, and he's guiding me through some of the ideas, the cost structure, starting to research the area on available space, trucks, and so on. Key activities that's a little bit more organized. Restaurant business is a fast and efficient food service, high customer service standards, quality food, and trained and qualified employees. I mean, overall, I'm getting there. Things are changing as I go. So next week should be a little bit more structured.